Hello, my name is Saria, and today we are going to go over a presentation that discusses phonology and the ESL EFL learner. Oral language has been regarded as an important way in teaching speech vocabulary. Despite the many advances made in our modern world of high technology and electronic devices, one thing we can be assured is that we will never cease using oral speech as our primary means of communication. Unless we're learning a new language or teaching someone how to speak, we generally take oral communication for granted. In this presentation, after viewing it, you are going to be able to know what phonology is and how it compares to that of phonetics. You will also know how we can understand phonology and challenges that ESL, EFL speakers face when they're trying to speak and pronounce certain letters or words in the English language, ways that we can teach phonetics and pronunciation to ESL, EFL students, and ways to mitigate or alleviate the miscommunication and how we as educators can help. Okay, so let's begin with the definition of what phonology is. Phonology is a branch of linguistics that studies the sound of language. This is a grammatical part of language that covers and includes not only just universal, but it includes language-specific parts and principles. When we speak, no matter what language we talk, every word that is spoken has syllables and also sounds. And these syllables can be referred to as feet, and they make up the whole component of phonology. Many times when we talk about phonology, we tend to think that it is phonetics. However, phonology and phonetics are different. The ways in which they are different is phonology is the study of the speech sounds used in a language, whereas phonetics is the study of the actual speech sounds. Phonology belongs to theoretical linguistics. However, phonetics belongs to descriptive linguistics. Phonology studies the different patterns of sounds in different languages, and phonetics studies the production, transmission, and reception of the sounds. And with phonology, you can study one specific language. However, phonetics does not study one particular language. So going further, how can we really understand phonology? Well, basically, phonology can seem really complicated because we effectively communicate every day. We talk on a daily basis. We don't take time to think about what we're going to say. We don't even think about the process of what goes into communication. However, with phonology, this process involves sounds, and the sounds come together to form words. And when we talk, we breathe, we inhale, we exhale, and we do this in certain types of ways. And we don't even really think about it. Depending upon which letter we're sounding out, we have certain air control, and we have breath and breathing control. And like I said, we don't even think about what we're saying or how we're breathing. And we're just taking in the air and letting it flow out as we are combining words and saying different things. Learning English is not as easy as one may think. There are challenges that ESL, EFL speakers face when they are trying to speak and pronounce certain letters or words in the English language. I'm going to read a poem and take note of what you see, how the words are spelled, and of what I actually say. I take it you already know of tough and bow and cough and dough. Others may stumble, but not you, on hiccough, thorough, long, and through. Well done, and now you wish perhaps to learn of less familiar traps. Beware of herd, a dreadful word that looks like beard and sounds like bird. And dead, it's said, like bed, not bread. For goodness sake, don't call it deed. Watch out for meat and great and threat. They rhyme with sweet and straight and depth. So there is a lot of confusion of spoken English in comparison to written English. The sounds that we speak in English, they don't necessarily match up most of the time with the letters written in English. Now, if we can't use the letters of the alphabet in a consistent, clear way to represent the sounds we make, how do we go about describing the sounds of the language like English? Okay, another challenge ESL, EFL speakers face when they're trying to speak and pronounce certain letters or words in the English language is the confusion they have between the voiced and the voiceless. Now, when speaking the voice sounds, the vocal cords are very close together. The air will blow them apart as it forces its way through, and this makes the cords vibrate, producing a voiced sound. Now, in a voiceless sound, the vocal cords are separated, they're apart. Air can escape unimpeded. There's no constriction in the airflow, and the sounds produced in this way are said to be voiceless, where you pretty much can't see them. Let's do an example. Okay, say S to yourself. S. Now say Z. And repeat it a few times. Z. Z. Now, okay, substitute the S sound. Instead of saying S, say F. 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 Now, V instead of Z. V. 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 Now, when you're saying these, you should be able to feel the vibration of your chords when you say Z, Z, and V. But you won't feel any vibrations when you say S and F. S, F. Now, here's another way to hear the vibration. Instead of putting your fingers on your throat, put your index fingers in your ears and repeat the above sounds. Z, S, F, V. Now, you should hear a low buzzing sound when you articulate Z and V, but you can almost hear nothing for the other two sounds, S and F. There are several ways that we can teach phonetics and pronunciation to our ESL, EFL students. Although repetition and having a student listen to your voice and or a recording and have them repeat it is a good way, they need more than just listening and repeating. We want to encourage our students to use more than just their speaking or their hearing to speak. We want them to use their sight, their sound, and their movement. It helps them to understand and to remember better. We want to make sure that our lessons are kept practical. Technical explanations can be hard to understand, can be confusing, and they can also be forgotten. So we want to be simple, to the point, and have them do a lot of practice. Practice makes perfect. You get better results. And we want to make sure that our lessons are tailored to meet our students' level of understanding. We want to also include communicative practices whenever possible. The students have to work towards using their pronunciation. And when we have our classes, we want to help them practice activities that are pretty much similar to everyday life, to real communication. We don't want them to practice skits and plays like they are acting. We want to help them to be able to communicate and speak in everyday life. We also want to train our students to be independent and autonomous learners. We want them to be able to make it on their own once they leave our classroom. We are not going to be holding their hand for the rest of their life. They will have to be in the real world, and we want to prepare them to be able to do that. Now, our students are going to have some confusion and their miscommunication, but we need to have ways that we can make their job a little bit easier. So let's look at some ways that we can mitigate the miscommunication and help them. We can do this one way by creating a good learning environment. This would have the students be involved in real life situations where they are given authentic listening materials. This way they can learn native-like pronunciation by imitating real life. And they can also learn how to use their gestures and body language to be able to communicate in a natural way. We want to be conscious and aware of different pronunciation problems that different speakers of different languages the students encounter, that we want to be aware of where we can correct them when they do make these pronunciation errors. We want to be trained to teach pronunciation to these learners. We should have enough instruction with not just from the books, but we should be technically, logically advanced so that we can use the appropriate software and introduce the appropriate software and visual aids and so forth to be able to help our students. Okay, some other ways to alleviate the miscommunication and be able to help these EFL students would be to make sure that you have plenty of authentic listening activities for these student learners in the classroom. They should be able to continually practice these activities. Another thing is pronunciation should be integrated into other language skills, and the learning should be a continual activity. Practice makes perfect. One other focus is that we want to primarily key in and focus on intonation, pitch, tone, and stress when teaching English pronunciation, because this allows the pronunciation instruction to be integrated into the teaching of the spoken language, and this can meet the ESL, EFL learners' needs from no matter what background they are. And another thing we want to explain the important differences between the sounds of targeted language and the mother tongue that helps them to adapt to the new nature of target languages. So when we know the differences and similarities between different languages and different sound systems, then we can understand and we can help our students be able to overcome any problems that they may encounter. Okay, in conclusion, we have learned what phonology is and how it differs from phonetics, and we have gone over the understanding of phonology and some of the challenges that ESL, EFL language learners encounter when trying to speak and pronounce the English language. We have covered ways that we as educators can effectively teach our ESL, EFL students in pronouncing and pronunciation and speaking English. And we have also gone over some ways that we can alleviate and make it easier for our students to understand and the miscommunication and how we can help our students. Now, no matter whether you are learning to speak English, read, write, or even any other language, there are going to be errors. But this will happen naturally in the classroom, and basically we are not going to get frustrated over these errors. We are going to help our students to learn how to recognize these errors, because they will occur, and how to be able to correct them so that they will be effective speakers and communicators of the English language. Thank you for your attention and time.